The first full moon of 2025, happening on Monday, January 13th, in the sign of Cancer, really is not playing around. Normally, the full moon loves to be in Cancer. Cancer is like about nurturing and the mother archetype and home and family. It's really a time to like have your cup feel full, to be served like hot soup on a warm winter's day and just to kind of feel that fuzzy feeling of, warmth and family and home or whatever those themes mean to you. But this full moon is conjunct Mars, the planet of war, of passion, of fire. Mars also happens to be retrograde at the time of the full moon as well. So, what does that mean for you? And what does that mean for your sign? What does that mean for the collective? Let's go ahead and look at the astrology and find out. First of all, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you haven't been here before. My name is Alexander Creek. I'm an astrologer and intuitive, and today we're going to be talking all about the astrology of the full moon in Cancer happening on Monday, January 13th, as well as horoscopes for your rising sign. So this first part, we're going to be talking about general information and kind of what we might all be expecting from this full moon. And then in the second part, we'll talk about a horoscope for your sign. If you're on YouTube, you can just click the chapter for your sign if you want to skip right to that. However, I would listen to this first part still. It's not that long. You can do it. Make sure that you're subscribed, that you like the channel, and leave a comment. I'd love for you to check in and see how this full moon, how you're feeling this full moon in Cancer. So first of all, like I mentioned, this full moon is conjunct Mars. So we have this normally kind of very cozy, nurturing full moon in Cancer is really, I think, a little bit irritated during this full moon. So first of all, Mars has been retrograde since December 6th, and it actually first in retrograde in the sign of Leo. So you may have been feeling this Mars retrograde in a different part of your chart. For me, Leo rules my 10th house of career. And when Mars is retrograde, it can be a time of a little bit more frustration or delays, or just a time of like super concentrated effort. Like Mars is just really trying hard to get something done, and Mars can be frankly, a little bit more irritable while it is retrograde. And I'm also going to do a separate video on Mars retrograde, so make sure that you're following my channel to find out more about that in depth and kind of what to expect from that. But Mars actually, so it was in Leo until for about a month from December. It was retrograde in Leo from December 6th to January 6th. And on January 6th, it slid back into the sign of Cancer, and it will actually be retrograde until February 4th. Mars is actually going to be in Cancer until mid-April. So it's going to be retrograde until February 24th, and then in Cancer until mid-April. So that's a long time for Mars to be in Cancer. So the house or the life area in your birth chart that contains the sign of Cancer is going to be feeling this Mars energy of like really trying to get something done, maybe feeling some frustration, some delays, or really just like really pulling focus to that area of your chart. I'll talk a little bit about what that means for you in your sign horoscope, and then again in my Mars retrograde video that I'm going to do as well. So watch out for that. So this full moon conjunct Mars, it's a more spicy and irritable version of a full moon in Cancer, essentially, because Mars represents taking action, fighting a battle somehow. And this is very feisty, very physical energy. Because this is Cancer, it may surround themes of your emotions or, loved ones, or themes of home and family, what we really hold dear to our hearts, what is more private and more emotional for us. This full moon conjunct Mars, it might be about like standing up for yourself, right? This could be having some sort of uncomfortable, maybe tender conversation with a loved one, like, hey, it actually really hurt my feelings on Thanksgiving when you said that I was ugly, or I don't know, whatever it is. You really kind of want to think like standing up for yourself, especially like over issues that may be from the past or something buried, as this is Mars retrograde. And a retrograde can often be about like looking at things from the past, or, or review or something. And because Mars can kind of represent conflict in general, we kind of want to think there's a little bit of irritable energy. There's going to be a conflict that needs to happen, or just some sort of uncomfortable emotional conversation that's sort of a little bit more heated in nature. So these are things that can really come up during this full moon conjunct Mars. And I wouldn't necessarily go out of your way to be overly aggressive, as that can really backfire during a Mars retrograde. But frankly, if you need to speak if you need to like speak up for yourself, this is probably like the time to do it. Because when we think of Mars, we think of like knives and swords and things that we fight with. And when we think of Cancer, we think loved ones and family members, issues around home, things around safety or like our emotional safety. So these themes may be really kind of coming up with this full moon. Another way to use this energy that may not, it's like there might be emotion in the air. It doesn't necessarily have to affect you like that. Like, I'm not sure that we're all going to be having issues with loved ones or family members. That's going to be in the collective, just kind of regardless. Another way to use this energy is actually simply by cooking. Cancer is matters of the home. Mars is actually heat and fire. So when we think of Mars and Cancer, we think of like boiling tea, boiling soup, like cooking, applying heat could be just this full moon is going to have you is going to have a lot of us. There's going to be a lot of fervor of activity and energy, like the need to get stuff done, to like accomplish tasks or to put our fire and energy towards something. So this may actually involve a lot of stuff around the house, a lot of like home projects, a lot of cooking, a lot of things like that. It could also be like decluttering or purging or getting rid of things. Mars does rule like separation and cutting. So this could be a really good way to use this energy. It's a very active energy, and you're going to want to apply it to like emotions or the home in some kind of way. And again, there's going to be like this a little bit of irritable, maybe snappy kind of energy in the air. I kind of feel like Monday just feels like a day that you're going to want to be doing some kind of physical activity, put this energy to good use. It could be time in a steam room. Again, thinking Cancer, it's water, Mars, it's fire, or simply like some kind of like workout to like build heat and just kind of sweat it out. And either way, it's like you're going to want to kind of speak on something that is maybe uncomfortable to you, but on your heart that just feels a little bit heated. This is a time to just get it out. It's not necessarily this is not going out of your way to be cruel or petty or passive aggressive, as passive aggressive can be a very kind of Mars and Cancer tendency. But this is going to be, we're going to be feeling that a little bit of that irritable energy of Mars and Cancer during this full moon. The moon is also going to be it's going to be making a flowing, harmonious aspect to Uranus, the planet of revolution and ingenuity. So this full moon may like encourage change, excuse me, excitement, or simply doing things in a new way. Uranus is a planet of invention. It's very associated with like electricity and like new ways of like doing things. So for me, for instance, I feel like I'm already feeling this energy because I'm doing things a little bit differently. Like on my YouTube channel, for instance, I'm kind of changing how things kind of operate in my business. And you may be feeling this energy in a way that's not necessarily associated with home or family at all. It could just be like, it also could, like, this could also be themes of like, I suddenly have this urge to just rearrange the furniture and do things in a new way. It's like, despite this sort of irritable kind of energy, this energy that we are feeling that we need to take action in a way that can and also kind of mixed with this sort of emotional kind of tender energy. There's an energy here of like, again, ingenuity, like a light bulb moment, a sudden insight, having a brilliant idea. So I would definitely kind of pay attention to those sort of intuitive kind of insights that come in for you on this full moon. Now let's go ahead and talk about what this means for your sign. I would encourage that you listen to your rising sign first, as it's going to be more accurate. Astrologers typically write horoscopes for your rising sign. If you don't know what that is, you're going to want to find your birth time, your birth location, and your birth date, and pop it into any reputable astrology website will be able to calculate that rising or ascendant sign for you. Rising and ascendant mean the same thing. And then you can listen for your sun or your moon sign if you want, and like blend the two of those together. But I always encourage the rising sign. That's gonna be a little bit more literally accurate for you. So we'll go ahead and start with Aries, and we'll work our way through the order of the zodiac. Remember that you can click on the chapters on YouTube, or simply skip. If you are listening to the audio podcast, look for those timestamps and skip to the appropriate time to get your horoscope. So let's go ahead and look. Aries rising, the full moon for you is happening in the fourth house of home and family. So this is when we might see, a kind of like anything from like a dust up or actual like conflict with something having to do with like a family member or parent or something to do with your home. There's a lot of activity surrounding, like it could be around property, real estate, something with the home. Like these Cancer themes are going to be very literal for you because this is happening in your fourth house of home. So, this could very well be like I'm running around all day doing like home projects, or there could be something very kind of emotional and heated with a family member. It could be one of those two things. I might also, and again, it doesn't have to be bad. This could, but I do expect that full moon energy, bringing something to completion or something to a head regarding home, family, property, parent. I would also keep things in mind regarding like maybe insights that would come in regarding your money. There could be, like it could be like a way to make money or a way to make more money or just something to do with your finances because that full moon is going to trine Uranus in your second house of income. So that those like, ingenuity, insights, things that I mentioned are happening in your second house of money. The full moon is happening in your third house. So this is maybe like a very heated conversation or correspondence. This is sort of like your words or more weapons now, while Mars is in Cancer for you for the next few months. So there's a lot of action for you regarding correspondences, your various conversations, your sort of daily rituals and routines. There's just a lot of energy and activity around that for you. This could be this could also be something having to do with like transportation or your car. There could be some kind of action that you're having to take around that or around like what is the word for how you get to work? I cannot your commute. There's maybe just like a lot more heightened energy around stuff around commute for you right now. It also could be, if we're looking at this as maybe like an emotional conversation or like a heated conversation, this could be you and a sibling also, could come in as well, because your third house where the full moon is happening does represent siblings. Also, the last thing I'm going to mention is you might be really spending a lot of time like over the next few months. Like there's a lot of action for you, maybe around like learning things, around teaching things in your various communication projects. It's like Mars retrograde makes it a little bumpy here, or you're really just spending a lot of effort and time around these things. Like I have to get all these classes done. I have to get all of these things done. I have to learn all of these things in time for like some project or something. That's kind of what I'm seeing for you with Mars retrograde and with this full moon in general. For Gemini rising, this full moon is happening in your second house. So it could be something dealing with your money. This could be like, I have, some kind of expense I need to deal with that's kind of uncomfortable. I need to have a conversation about, my income or my finances. You're having to take some kind of action, maybe like revolving around spending, on making money, on your various sources of income. You could be deciding like, hey, enough's enough. I'm going to maybe to change some of my spending habits or something. But that's kind of where this full moon is happening for you. And just like a general awareness and insight around money, spending, income, things like that. Perhaps a need to make more money or just, something like that. So that's kind of what I see for you. I'm trying to think if I see anything else for Gemini. I think I'm going to leave that alone. No, actually, this full moon for you, it is making a sign-based trine, so a harmonious aspect to Saturn, that planet of like, you have a lot kind of going on in like you've had a lot going on in your career since 2023, maybe more responsibility or more pressure on you. And there's something going on with like maybe the restrictions around you at work or in your career, and also spending. It's like I just see you kind of taking like practical and kind of like practical money career things around this full moon for you. Cancer rising, this full moon is in your sign. this is generally a time for you that I think, this is some kind of maybe big completion for you, a time of like turning the chapter somewhat. Perhaps you're ready to like release something around your identity. I might really see you like standing up for yourself though. Like there's themes around standing up for yourself, asserting yourself, um, and whenever you do it with Mars and Cancer, it's almost like you're doing it in like an emotional way. I kind of get like angry tears with this energy. This is also a time for you that I want to say like stay physically active, if you can. Don't over push yourself, because Mars and Cancer, sometimes like its energy levels kind of go up and down, and I feel like you might just be feeling a little bit more irritable than usual on this full moon. um I'm gonna say maybe there's some kind of opportunity that kind of arises from like a friend or from someone in like a group or some like affiliation or organization that you belong to. Something kind of like something surprising that affects you in a more positive way, because it is trining Uranus in your 11th house. But this full moon, I do feel like it is very personal for you. And there also could be something with just like your relationships in general, because during a full moon, the sun and moon are in opposition, and the sun happens to Capricorn season for you may often be about relationships and partnerships for you too. So in a way, I could see you like there's a lot of passion around relationships, or even the feeling of like separating yourself or cutting someone out of your life, or like looking at your relationships and the stuff in your life and deciding like what is really good for me right now and what is not. And the stuff that's not, I think you're going to be kind of cutting it out of your life, with this full moon in Cancer. So Leo, this full moon is happening in your 12th house itself, not even looking at Mars. This is a more private full moon. This is a time of like rest and retreat, and like kind of delving into your subconscious mind, like spending some time alone, spending some time in nature, spending some time in your bedroom, like journaling and reading is kind of the vibe, right? However, we have Mars here. So I want you to kind of watch your thoughts, because Mars going through your 12th can be a little bit just kind of uncomfortable. Sometimes Mars going through your 12th house can be like anxiety sometimes, or just feelings of like unease, right? And I want you to pay attention to your thoughts and what your thoughts are saying. It's like, if you're like, listen, it's like, I want you to make sure that you're being nice to yourself, is essentially kind of what I'm getting here. And make sure that the thoughts that are playing out in your head, that you're kind to yourself. The other thing with this full moon for you going on in your 12th house is, because the full moon can spotlight or illuminate and shine a light on something. And the 12th house is anything that is hidden to us, and anything in any place that we might like self-sabotage, or maybe that we have like relationships in our life that might actually not be good for us. I would just sort of look for, this full moon may shine a light on things that have been previously been hidden to you, that you need to cut out of your life, or you need to change in some way. It could be something in your psychology, it could be a person, it could also be about like long-term physical health stuff as well, that might kind of crop up during this Mars retrograde, and it could shine a light on that as well. So yeah, that's what we have for Leo rising. Virgo rising, this full moon is happening in the 11th house. There's a lot of activity regarding friends, allies, groups that you are part of, social media groups that you are part of. This could be anything from the extreme of a conflict with a friend or someone in some kind of group that you are a part of, someone online, something like that. You could be finding yourself saying, hey, I want to cut down the amount of like people that are in my life, that like I just don't really have time to be socializing as much anymore, or I need to like trim some of this up. There also could just be a lot of activity around these things too with Mars here. Mars is energy and action and activity, and you're really kind of rethinking. I'm thinking that you're kind of rethinking the different groups and different like personal and professional like relationships and associations that you have going on. And again, this is specifically like friends, social groups, um, work colleagues. I think that you're going to be kind of like rethinking these things here. For Libra rising, this full moon for you is happening in the 10th house. So there could very well be some completion, some ending having to do with your career, having to do with an authority figure or boss, or having to do with just kind of your personal and professional like reputation. With Mars, first of all, with Mars retrograde through here through February 24th, we're really kind of rethinking like, is this career direction right for me? Do I see myself going somewhere else and me getting a little frustrated in career, or perhaps you're really just trying very hard at something. Maybe you're putting a lot of effort in when it comes to your career or your work here. The full moon makes this part of your chart really visible. You could be you could be kind of like known for something with your career right now. This is also a good time to think about like, what do you want to cut out as far as your career? Like, what don't you want to do anymore? What's not working for you? And on the extreme end of things, it could be a conflict, with a boss, or with something having to do, in your work, or you having to make some kind of decision, maybe even like quickly, with this full moon in Cancer. You're another sign that I would say, watch money stuff or insights that come in around money stuff. You might be having some ideas on how to make money and how to earn commission and how to make a little money on the side, as this full moon does make a fortunate aspect to Uranus, that planet of ingenuity in your shared resources sector as well. Scorpio rising. This full moon is happening in your 9th house. So Mars retrograde for you, first of all, is really, I think, about like, again, frustration, delays, or just a lot of concentrated effort on things involving publishing, media, higher education, and spirituality. It's like you're really focusing maybe on like on your philosophy, on your spirituality. This could be time that you're like, I'm gonna sit down and like write that fucking book, right? But that book might just be more work than you intended it to be. Or this might be a time when you're like, I'm gonna work on my YouTube channel, but it's a lot of work. That's kind of what I'm kind of seeing for Mars retrograde for you, until February 24th. With this full moon in your 9th house, it's just these things might really be spotlighted for you. This might be a time that you're like, I'm going to take a class, like I'm signing up for this class, or that you're deciding to, it could also be things involving travel plans as well, like making travel plans. I'm gonna say travel stuff will go well for you after June, because Jupiter, that planet of blessings and expansion, enters that same part of your chart. So it's like maybe we're like rethinking travel plans right now, or we're not sure about our travel plans or something like that during Mars retrograde. During this full moon, it could very well be that maybe you're having to defend your beliefs a little bit, because the 9th house has to do with like our personal philosophy, our political beliefs. It's like passionately defending beliefs here, or that we're just putting a lot of work and effort into publishing, into media, into education, into travel. It's like there's just some kind of heat and energy going on in this part of your chart for you. You also could be looking at like, hey, what do I want to cut out in my social media strategy or in my media strategy, or what have I been pursuing in my higher education that I'm kind of ready to like let go of? Could be coming up for you with this full moon. Sagittarius rising. This full moon for you is happening in the 8th house of shared resources and other people's money, of taxes, of matters relating to mortality. So Mars is retrograde through here through February 24th. So I think you're going to be really kind of looking at like matters related to an estate, or like life insurance, kind of like re-looking at those things, looking at your investments and your various bank accounts, and maybe this is a period of like divesting, right? It could be that we've shared finances we've shared finances with a partner. Perhaps we're not going to do that anymore. Perhaps we're going to sort of split like our money, and kind of looking at different kind of money situations. That can frankly be kind of sticky, during this Mars retrograde. There can be some frustrations there can be some separations. There also can just be a lot of effort, going into like, I need to fix my car insurance, I'm paying too much. I want to look at my investments and just change how I am doing that. Or just I'm just trying to get a handle on finances in general, right? Maybe I'm paying out the ass for some loan and I want to refinance. It's like there's just a lot of energy going into these things. I will say the eighth house can also be emotional, for some people as well. It can be sort of like our buried emotional baggage, especially with Mars and Cancer, because Cancer is the emotions. So this might be a time where you're really kind of stirring up a lot of buried emotion and buried trauma, because the eighth house tends to be like kind of like trauma, stuff, like really psychological stuff. So with this full moon can really bring some kind of like event or culmination or completion or something to a head regarding of all these things I just talked about. Making some sort of financial decision, reaching an end to something in your financial life, having to deal with something in your estate, or matters of like taxes or even mortality. Thinking about like, this could be time that you're randomly like, yeah, I need to get some paperwork going on how I want to be buried when I die, or do I want to be cremated? You know what I mean? That stuff is very much kind of eighth house energy. And really kind of brings to a head a lot of the things that I talked about. It also, on the extreme end of things, can be conflicts around money, around shared resources as well. Capricorn, let's see, what do we have going on with your energy here? Capricorn rising, this full moon for you is happening in your seventh house of relationships. So, interesting. So Mars retrograde is going to be happening for you primarily in your partnerships, romantic, business, platonic, right? Our kind of contractual agreements and the people that we are in relationship with. And you're going to be dealing with a lot of that until February 24th. It's a lot of like, do I want to be in this relationship? Is this relationship working like the way I want it to? There's, in Mars is heat, right? So we're kind of stirring things up in relationships, in partnerships, and really thinking like, is this what I want to do in my relationships, kind of going forward. So this full moon is going to illuminate that. And this might be time where you say, enough's enough, I'm sick of this relationship, I'm done. It could be a time where you're saying, I want to do things differently, let's have a conversation. This could very well be a conversation with a family member, or a spouse, and this also could just be when you're highly active in relationships right now. Like, we're making decisions, we're getting things done, because Mars is also action. But I really do feel like the focus for you in this full moon is going to be relationships, perhaps cutting one out of your life on the extreme end, or having some kind of conflict that you need to work out. I'm going to say, with the trine, that fortunate aspect to Uranus, that planet of ingenuity, there could be, pay attention to opportunities around children, around a creative project, or even just like the chance to have a little bit more fun. Maybe fun is kind of what you're missing around this full moon, because Uranus is literally in your house of recreation right now. So it could be like, if we're finding ourselves like fighting with a spouse, the solution could be like, should we like go out for dinner and just like treat ourselves a little bit? Something like that could come up for this full moon for you. Aquarius rising, this full moon for you is happening in your sixth house of health and work. Mars retrograde, and Mars is going to be retrograde in this part of your chart until February 24th. So we're really kind of looking at like, okay, how do I want to change how I'm taking care of myself, my health routines, exercise? How do we, am I satisfied in my work? Do I want to be doing things differently in my work routines? It could be stuff coming up with coworkers, with employees that you have, with people that you contract out to. These things are all kind of up in the air during this Mars retrograde. It could be that we have a lot of work in this area. It could also be that, there are some delays and setbacks and just sort of irritations that come up in this Mars retrograde. It could be a little bit of both. It's like, either way, that's going to be a highlight of just stuff to be, of knots to be untangled and things to be worked out until February 24th. So this full moon, it could be likely. So this full moon could very well be some kind of ending or separation with your work. Perhaps you're like, I'm fucking ready to move on and find something else. We're done, or it could be some conversation that you need to have with an employee or coworker that's kind of tense, that has to do with a little bit of conflict, or perhaps we're going to be changing something with our exercise, or perhaps there is even just something with our health that comes up. They're like, whoa, I need to watch kind of what I'm putting in my body, or I really need to take care of my health right now. With Mars in Cancer, it's going to be important to watch your energy levels. Mars is not super happy in the sign of Cancer. In Mars in Cancer, your energy can kind of go like this. So rest and take breaks when you need it. Mars in Cancer really is not the time to push until you break, because going through a sensitive part of your chart, like your health sector, this is definitely time to take care of yourself. Like push when you need to, but also pull back when you need to as well. For Pisces rising, this full moon is happening in your 5th house of children, of recreation, of pleasure, romance, and creativity. So Mars is retrograde through this part of your chart through February 24th. So, this could be a time when we're kind of like thinking about, hey, is my romantic relationship really stimulating? Is this really what I want? Am I a little bored? Do I need more passion? This could be a time when we're maybe feeling a little bit of creative, like a creative block that we're needing to work through, or that we're just sort of needing to go kind of back to the drawing board when it comes to like a creative project of some kind. Perhaps we're also really on fire and we're like looking at things in a different way with a creative project. It's like both things can occur during this Mars retrograde. I will say this could be a more creative time for you, especially if you're like looking at things in like a different way. It could be like a situation with a child or pregnancy, or something comes up with that, like some sort of situation needs to be resolved around that during this Mars retrograde as well. So this full moon is going to coincide with one of those things. It's like we're making a decision, we're maybe cutting someone out of our life on like a very extreme end of things, or maybe we're just having a little conflict or dust up, like what does this relationship mean? Is this a situationship or is this like an actual fucking relationship? Make up your mind. Or perhaps we have like a surge of passion or creative energy with this full moon. This full moon, though, is not likely to be like a super. I don't see this full moon is likely to be like everyone feels good. There's some kind of edge to this full moon, right? Our words have an edge. Our creative projects have an edge. If you're working on some sort of artistic project during this full moon, it's sort of like, maybe there's a little blood, sweat, and tears involved. Like there's just like there's a harshness to this full moon in Cancer, and this is also a good time to really kind of get out some emotions and some feelings to this full moon in Cancer. But I think some sort of completion or culmination or awareness, insight connected to pregnancy, children, romantic relationships, creativity, and anything where you normally have fun. There's some kind of edge to this. There's some kind of edge to this energy. So I hope that makes sense. So I guess we'll find out when we get to that full moon, huh? So anyway, so that is that. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Comment below with what's happening with your full moon story. I do one-on-one personal readings on my website, dogstaroracle.com. Again, make sure that you're subscribed and have those notifications turned on. And I will see you all next time. Take care.